I mean, the second you get used to the schedule, it's gone on next Tuesday. So I'm already getting emails about transitioning. Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Tuesday to you. We are quickly approaching that time where you will be back in the school. Some of you will be. So that's exciting. Something to look forward to, hopefully. As people are getting on here to the Zoom, what I want you to do is I'm going to put up a set of questions. I want you to answer one of these three questions in the chat function. Do it now, and we'll have a quick discussion and then get into the group activity that I wanted to. So, question one, name important characteristics of the Ottoman Empire, as many as you can. Question two, identify successes and failures of the Ottoman Empire prior to 1800. Or three, what other civilizations could you compare the Ottoman Empire to? So go ahead, just try to see what you guys remember and if you know anything about the Ottoman Empire. Again, throw these answers in the chat function, please. All right, so we got our first answers here. Powerful, tolerant, ruthless. You can compare the Ottoman Empire to Egypt or China because they all underestimated the Europeans. Okay, good. Ottoman Empire can be compared to the Safavid Empire, and they both were dependent on technological advancements, but due to their lack of westernization, they both collapsed. That's a good comparison. Success for a long time, reputation for spreading and lasting as long as they did. That's also very true. Good answer. Gunpowder Empire overthrew Constantinople, Muslim country, and at one point were large and powerful. Awesome. Advanced technology for military, extremely powerful. Different social classes. I like that. Bureaucracy, good. Janissaries, who were, remember, captured boys. Similar to Russia, and the fact that the Ottoman Empire was the head of the Islamic Church and Russia was the head of the Orthodox Church. That's a good example. I like this. I see some good, highly effective comparisons and information. Tony, are you there? Tony Yazvich, are you there? I think I'm about to get Zoom bombed for the first time. All right. We are going to go ahead and move forward from here. So I need you to go to your Canvas page. Go ahead and head to your Canvas page, and from there, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here and take us to what I'm looking for. All right, so we're going to go to modules here. And today we're going to take a look at the Islamic heartland and the Ottoman Empire. Okay, and obviously someone already eloquently pointed it out that we're talking about how they dealt with the the pressure from Europe to conform change. So here's what we've got for today. Okay, we'll be breaking up into 6 groups. Okay, the group that you get will correspond to your breakout room. So that means that if you're in breakout room 1, you're with group 1, breakout room 2, group 2, etc., all the way to 6. Okay. You basically be assigned about a page or a page and a half from the textbook from chapter 27.1, 27.2. As a group, review the questions you are assigned and fill out the answers on the shared Google Doc. Then be ready to talk about your section as we review it in class. One person, remind me here, one person should be the group leader who is responsible for doing the talking, not one person per question. Okay. All groups will be graded on participation and completion, 5 points, and you're going to have 12 minutes to get your questions done. Now, I'm going to click on document 7 or period 7A Google Doc just to see what they did. Okay, this is what theirs look like. When it's all said and done, does everyone see this on the screen? I'm sharing it, I believe. Okay, so these were our notes over the first 2 sections. Now, here's the deal. Some of these had way too much writing. Okay, try to keep your answers simple but factual. Okay, simple but factual. So if you click on the period 9 Google Doc, which is what we should be on, okay, so now I've got 10 people or so on here. This is what we're going to be using. The questions are fairly straightforward. I might make a couple suggestions as you get started on this, but yeah. Okay. Is anybody having trouble accessing the group notes here? Okay, so looks like we're doing okay. So again, one person's going to be kind of talking through the answers. I'm going to give you some background information beforehand, and then we'll rip through it. And then if we have any time at the end, I've got pictures and stuff I want to show you. The reason why I'm differentiating today into groups is because tomorrow I'm going to lecture over the fall of the Qing Dynasty and some more complex stuff. And I've got a lot of cool pictures and stuff that I wanted to show you. So I didn't want to lecture 2 days in a row because I don't want to model bad teaching. So if I can avoid it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make the breakout rooms and then start the timer unless anybody has a question. Okay, remember, you work from your period 9 Google Doc. Do not go on their 7-8 Google Doc. There's no reason. Plus, some of their answers weren't totally right, and that's why we'll go over them together. All right, where are these breakout rooms? There they are. It's good. That's good. It's good. Awesome. All right. Other thing that is, remember, I asked you as a class to have your cameras on. It's even more important when we do the breakout rooms because this is your one opportunity to put a name to a face. And so then when you come back, you will not all be strangers. Then if we ever get to all come back in the building, we can have a Whap team like I like to create where we all dominate the AP exam. And then we have a pizza party, COVID-friendly pizza party at the end of the school year. Okay. And if my wife's in a really good mood, she makes chocolate chip cookies. They're so good. Okay. Like big batches of them. So see if we can get to that point. All right. Breakout rooms are coming. Let's do it. Everybody that is waiting to start here, I would encourage you to make a copy of that Google document and save it as your own. And then you can make notes on it, obviously in different colors or whatnot, or things that you think are important that you want to remember. Obviously, it's a good study tool for the test for this these two chapters, and just going back and being able to review for the final exam and the AP exam. Okay, we've got everyone back here, so I'm going to go ahead and just real quick share with you this again, and I always kind of title this lecture in class, Fighting the Man. Who is the man? Can anybody unmute and tell me who the man is here? Who's the Ottoman and Islamic Harlians? Who are they fighting? Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Napoleon?
They are not fighting the man Napoleon. Now, although a lot of people did fight Napoleon. Students, they are fighting Western Europe and industrialization and intellectual ideas like the Enlightenment, and ideas like communism and socialism and democracy, which all were not natural in the Ottoman Empire. Take a look. This is the area that we are looking at. Okay, very important area of the world to this day. A lot of different civil wars that have occurred here recently. Very strategic place between large empires to this day, like Russia, Iran, Western Europe still. The United States has a huge presence in this area, Israel, etc. Okay, so that being said, let's jump into your work that you did and see how it matches up. All right, we start off with group 1. What were the causes of the crisis in the Ottoman Empire? Somebody take that, please. Whoever is in group 1, let's go. Let's talk. Remember, you were supposed to nominate someone or elect. Anybody from group 1 here? Am I not sharing the right screen? Kenna, is that you? Elias, one of you. There's 2 others out there. Let's go. Talk.
Kenna was supposed to be the person that reads it off, but I don't think she's in the Zoom right now.
Okay. What happened to her? All right, then you talk, Elias.
All right. For question 1, what were the causes of the crisis in the Ottoman Empire? The Ottoman crisis was brought on by a succession of weak rulers within a political and social order that was centered on the Sultan at the top.
All right, so the Sultan was just like the Suleiman, the unlimited ruler, and there was no checks on his power. Other things to add, the businessmen were not, or basically were losing out to Western European businessmen, and the Janissaries were no longer elite fighting forces, so nobody was really happy. All right, how did the European commercial advances affect the Ottoman Empire?
The Western manufactured goods took over the industries and economic dependencies rose. Position of artisan workers deteriorated from imported manufacturers in Europe.
Okay, so essentially you have Ottoman Empire falls behind Europe, technologically speaking, in the industrial sector, and they have to take loans out in order to survive. Good. All right, how did the Austrian Empire affect the Ottoman Empire? I think Kenna might be back.
Sorry, it kicked me out, and I wasn't sure if we were supposed to join the meeting again or not, but where did we leave off?
Let's move forward. You want to take number 3?
Yeah, I can take number 3. Basically, the Austrian Empire affected the Ottoman Empire because they were like the key element of. Basically, the Austrian Empire was the key element of their demise, and the territories were granted independence. And I didn't write this one, so I don't know how to.
Okay, so yes, so when the Ottoman Empire began to fall, like any empire does, they lost a lot of land to the Austrian Empire, particularly in the Balkans. Greece got independence. Okay, let's look at 4. Why did Russia's advances cause problems for the Ottoman Empire?
Do you want me to take this one?
I just wanted someone from your group to do what they were supposed to do. So
Okay, sorry. Basically, the Ottoman Empire had like bad weapons and training, which left them vulnerable to like outside forces to be able to conquer them very easily. So, the ambition of the Russian power was basically hastening the Ottoman Empire's demise and like slowly weakened it over time. They had less effective ruling and just being like slowly crushed by the Russians.
well, and the Russians wanted the warm water ports along the Black Sea to be able to conduct trade around the world. Okay, and so that directly meant they had to take land from the Ottoman Empire. Good. All right, 5. Explain Ottoman withdrawal from the Balkan Peninsula. Okay. Basically, in the early 1800s, Greece, Serbia, got their independence, as well as the areas that Russia took at the hands of the Ottoman Empire, and so they had to completely withdraw from the Balkan Peninsula, which left them no presence in Europe anymore. Okay, let's see how they tried to reform and survive. So, group 2, why didn't Europe want to see the Ottoman Empire fall?
Because they were allies with Russia, and Russia was basically like holding them up, and they didn't want the European country to come and take over Egypt.
Well, yes, but they did not want to see Russia. This is important. They did not, other countries in Europe did not want to see Russia take the Ottoman Empire. Okay, that would have put a huge damper on Russian success, or on Russia's power. That would have made them more powerful, and Europeans would have lost out, other European countries would have lost out on access to the Middle East. So they weren't going to let that happen. What attempts did the Ottomans make to slow their decline?
The Sultan formed a new small professional army that they hid from the Janissaries. So when the time was right, they killed all the Janissaries, and the Janissaries didn't get like their warriors.
Yep. All right. So they attempted to make a professional westernized army. This is probably the most important one right here, though. I'm going to bold it, underline it, italicize it. This is known as the Tanzimat Reform. So what were they?
They were like changes to education, and that was reorganized, and then transportation and communication were like advanced with railways and telegraphs. And then a constitution was established, and equal rights for women became a more prominent topic.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, you want to write in your notes, Tanzimat reforms equals Western attempt at Westernization. Okay. It's very similar to what Peter the Great tried to do to Russia just 100 years later. And so the fact that they waited 100 years means that they were less likely to find success. Plus, they had a lot of different social classes and different religions that made up the Ottoman Empire. All right. What was the status of women in the Ottoman Empire by the end of the 1800s?
Proposals for education and ending seclusion, polygamy, and veiling were given to the intellectual circles. And after the sultans were driven from power, the women gained the power that they needed in 1908.
Yeah, but basically, though, despite there being some push for change, women were still not treated like women in the West, and there was still seclusion, still lack of education, still veils expected in most of the areas of the Ottoman Empire. So That's important. Remember that. Gender roles is also always important. All right, group 3. Let's talk about the decline then, the change. So, Sultan Abdul Hamid, what did he do?
He attempted to bring back despotic. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
That word means totalitarian government, dictatorial rule, absolute rule. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's use words that
Okay, so he brought that back. Well, he attempted to bring it back, which would essentially restrict a lot of freedoms, specifically in the press, which would limit the westernized groups to not have as much power as they did. But he also continued to attempt to spread some Western concepts in specifically government and culture.
Yeah, but so when he reversed a lot of what was done in the Tanzimat reforms, he upset people though, and it's particularly these group of young men who were educated in England, okay, and in Paris, known as the Young Turks. So what were the goals of the Young Turks?
The Young Turks were members of the Ottoman Society for the Union and Progress, and their goal was to restore the 1876 constitution and resume the reforms within the Ottoman Empire. And they wanted to modernize the Ottoman Empire, and they strongly opposed the Sultan at the time's rule.
Good. So this Ottoman Society for Union and Progress is their nickname is the Young Turks, and they wanted to lead Turkey or the Ottoman Empire, and eventually after World War I, they'll be the ones that are in charge and create the country of Turkey. Okay. All right. Were they successful? Why or why not? Go ahead.
They were seen as successful because the Young Turks, although their attempts to make change were often fruitless, they did help invoke an officer's coup d'état that, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that reinstated the 1876 constitution. But you could also say that it didn't affect much because soon the Ottoman Empire would be dismantled after World War I.
Yeah, so they successfully toppled the last sultan, but the World War I broke out shortly after, and they were not prepared at all. Okay, let's go to group 4, the Islamic heartland. So we're moving a little bit to the south. Why did peoples of Arabia and nearby areas resent the Turks?
The people of Arabia and like the nearby areas, they had been like heavily taxed by the Ottomans for a really long time, and they hadn't really given them much freedom or like representation. So they were angry and they kind of wanted more independence at that point.
Good. The British really used that against the Ottomans in World War I. Think Lawrence of Arabia, if you've ever seen that movie. 2, how did the Mamluk slave warriors fare against Napoleon?
Well, they had a really bad defeat because the Muslim areas had fallen so far behind Europe, and at the Battle of the Pyramids, they just like horribly lost.
Good. Men with swords versus Napoleon's cannons. All right, who eventually defeated Napoleon in Egypt?
It was just the British it was just the British, really.
Yeah. And remember, Napoleon escaped and made it back to France without people hearing that he lost. Okay, 4, how did Muhammad Ali assure Egyptian independence?
He created lots of reforms and also like changed their military to make it more Western. And he also changed the economy and tried to modernize Egypt more. They also had power against and to try to like lead them toward a more Western kind of life.
Yeah. So he's kind of the reason why they're able to remain somewhat independent. Also, continue to press the building of the Suez Canal, etc. Had 43 kids. All right, who are the Khedives?
The Khedives were like descendants of people who claimed to be descendants of Muhammad Ali, and who after 1867 like formally ruled Egypt, but the French and the English intervened quite a lot, and they continued to do this until 1952 when a military coup made Nasser the ruler of Egypt.
Good. So they were the puppets to the British. And so they ruled Egypt, and Egypt was not technically a colony of the British, even though the British exercised what's called indirect rule in Egypt. All right, let's go to group 5. How did the Suez Canal change Egypt on a world level?
The Suez Canal was a really big point of power for the Europeans and Egypt because it allowed the Europeans to trade with Asia without having to go all the way around Africa. And so it was a very big focal point of trade, and with that came military might and political power.
Good.
And all of those made Egypt very powerful.
Yeah, and so by connecting the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, this made that area extremely important for European industrial powers. All right, what was the central argument between Muslim scholars in the mid-1800s? Sum that up in about 15 words.
Muslim scholars argued whether or not they should westernize or not.
Or remember, for hundreds of years, the Muslims had been dominant over the Christians and Western Europeans. Now they'd waited so long, and there still was religious backlash about westernizing. Good. How did Britain expand its influence over Egypt towards the end of the 1800s?
They helped quell a riot or riots in Alexandria, and since they did that, they kind of just left an imprint on Egypt and left their advisors and consuls there to indirectly rule Egypt.
Good job. Okay, let's go group 6. We're moving a little bit south now into the interior of East Africa, an area known as the Sudan. Why were the Egyptians resented in the Sudan?
People didn't like Egyptian rule very much because they were generally very corrupt. They taxed the peasant class heavily. They eradicated slavery, which was one of the Sudanic people's main sources of income, and because the Egyptians were seen as outsiders.
Yeah, good. All right, this is kind of weird, but I think you can explain the rise of the Mahdi and the goals.
I can answer this one as well. The Mahdi, which was led by Muhammad Ahmed, was presented as a way of minimizing or escaping the oppression that Egyptian rule caused, and in a way was seen as a way to unite Sudan again.
Yes, and what changes were made then under the Mahdi regime in Sudan?
He proclaimed, I don't know how to pronounce that. How do you pronounce that?
Jihad?
A jihad against the Egyptians and British that would return Islam to its original purity.
Yeah. So he wanted to get rid of any Western influence. He thought the Egyptians had been corrupted, and he wanted to purify Islam, and he claimed that he was a descendant of Muhammad. All right. And so by doing this, he's going to use guerrilla warfare tactics to try to eliminate British presence without having the technology to do so. Why did the Mahdist state decline in the Sudan? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it all had to do with the shooting of some birds, and they killed a general, correct? Who's got this one? Well, essentially, the British would invade the Sudan because they'd find resources that they liked there. And when the British invaded with a more organized army, that's going to lead to the end of the Mahdist state. But that movement never stopped. This area in the Sudan still has a very conservative Muslim group that pushes for anti-Western movements and not relying on the West. All right, last one here. What challenges would the Islamic heartland face in the early 1900s then? Somebody in that group help us out and finish us off. Come on.
The leaders and the thinkers of the Islamic world were divided about how to like reverse the decline and get the Europeans out. And then the Arabs were exposed to the danger of Europeans and like their conquests, and the loss of Islamic land results from like the loss of Islamic land to Europeans results in like the crisis in the Middle East.
Yeah, so without the Ottoman Empire there as a placeholder, no one was there to protect these smaller groups. And so they were exposed to invasion. All right, the bell's about to ring. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of reminders here. Your DBQ rewrite is due by 11 a.m. tomorrow. That is on the place to upload that is under the module for this week. And then the second part of your geography quiz is Friday. That's mountains, bodies of water, and continents, land areas. Grades were very good last Friday, so hopefully this is something that should pad your grade, not hurt it. Okay? Unless you have a question, get out of here. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Don't forget about these two things coming up. All right, see you, everyone.
Is the only homework just to edit our essays?
Yeah, to write, make sure it follows the rules that we went over last week on Thursday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye. Where are you on?